Hello and welcome to yet another session of In Dialogue Foundation Certificate Course in Dialogue Studies 2024-2025. Today we have the pleasure of having with us Dr. Silvia Osman, who will be speaking on Dialogue of Intelligences, Insularity and Interconnectedness. Dr. Silvia Osman is an associate professor at the National University of Political Studies and Public Administration, Department of Sociology in Romania. Author of more than 20 books, Dr. Osman has also published many articles on literature, discourse, and multicultural dialogue, paradigm shift in education, and mindsight within the framework of multimodal approaches to communication. She completed the Foreign Policy and Diplomacy program of the Romanian Diplomatic Institute. Dr. Osman has her master's in European integration from the UCDC Faculty of Law and Administration Studies at Bucharest and holds her PhD in Aesthetics, Theory, Pedagogy, and History of Theatre. Dr. Osman, you have up to 2 hours for the session. You may leave as much time for questions and discussions as you like. And as usual, I would like to remind all the participants to keep their cameras on during the session for a good interaction. Ma'am, the floor is all yours.
Hello, everybody. Nice to see you all here, and good to be here, your guest, to lecture in front of so many people interested of what's going on nowadays in terms of dialogue, knowledge, multiculturality, and ways in which education can progress. I would like to welcome you all, and I would like to share with you a couple of slides that I have prepared, which are not actually the essence of what I'm going to talk to you about. Since I want to express some of my concerns about the world we live in today and about the way in which we can cope with what's been going on. I don't know if you sense the way in which stress is putting, a burden on our shoulders nowadays. Can you just nod if you are stressed? If you feel the pressure of what's going on around us, I can share with you also the feeling that my students this year, more than 300, actually 321, who are studying sociology, psychology, political science, international relations, and European studies, and are in my class where I teach English for specific purposes. And I have with them on a regular basis, that means weekly, discussions, conversations, and dialogues, which I wish all of you can have with your teachers during your studies, no matter what your interests and concerns and domains of studies are. It is very important that we keep close and we share ideas, because I don't know if this is good news or even news for you. Nowadays, nobody has limitless knowledge. Even the internet, has flaws, and even the AI everybody's talking about nowadays, and the use of it in education and in all sorts of areas of knowledge has also limits. What can we do during our interactions in an educational environment is to share ideas, communicate, and connect to a level in which knowledge becomes secondary. In my opinion, unless you build a bridge, unless you build a channel of communication with the people that you want to educate in any way, transfer knowledge on any type of level, you need to open a channel of communication that bridges a gap that's being, how should I say, induced in society nowadays. Now we are separated geographically. I'm in Europe, you're in India, and we are far away in terms of distance, but yet so close since we are interacting in a lecture. And the way in which our paths interconnected is weird because it is through a conference I have moderated for the United Nations. So you see, globalization has also some benefits. People can interact from various areas of the world, interconnect, then come closer than ever and avoid the fragmentation that the society induces. I'm going to get back to that point a bit later, and we will discuss it. Thoroughly. What we use interconnecting on such different levels in time, space, and cultural backgrounds is using a type of intelligence that we are not aware we're using in everyday lives. We are very much aware of our IQ and emotional intelligence. Many people have been vehiculating those terms. But social intelligence is actually this ability of creating bridges and getting closer and interacting on levels not imaginable 10, 20, 30, maybe 50 years back, or maybe longer, when Edward Thorndike coined this term of social intelligence. What I want to suggest during our talk today is a term I coined, that is summative intelligence, and encourage you to use in all your discussions, conversations, and dialogues summative intelligence, which means the sum of all intelligences that a human being can use knowingly or unknowingly. So summative intelligence would be the sum of the multiple intelligences that Howard Gardner described a century ago. And do your best to interconnect them. What types of intelligences would be those? Besides cognitive intelligence, the way in which you vehiculate terms, information, and knowledge that you acquire during your educational trip, let's say, you need to also use emotional intelligence. Remember when they were saying that the EQ is the new IQ? The way in which you can link interpersonal relationships with the knowledge in a way in which brings you to be a better team player and to work among people and be successful in a team. While interpersonal intelligence, it is valuable part of the social intelligence. I would like also to highlight for you intrapersonal intelligence, which means the way in which you view yourself, your qualities, your flaws, the ways in which you are valuable to yourself, to your community. What are the plus values you can bring to a team? Okay, it brings a high level of awareness. All right. Some key traits of the interpersonal intelligence I will provide to you. I'll send you the PowerPoint, so don't worry about writing everything that you see on my screen. It is just a starting point for a larger, let's say, dialogue environment and conversation I would like to have with you, possibly in a more extended Q&A session that I will allot rather than extend my lecture. Of course, empathy, it is important. Of course, social skills are important. You can be the smartest person ever, but if you don't know how to interact into a team, then you will be isolated, and you'll see that isolation and fragmentation are two of postmodernity's, let's say, negative impacts on society on many levels. Of course, communication is something we need. Of course, conflict resolution is important, and collaboration within the framework of any type of social environment. Okay. I was talking about fragmentation a little bit earlier, and last year when I was invited by Mr. Behzad Fatmi to have a lecture in front of the students gathering around in dialogue at that time, was infocracy. And I recommended a book written by a philosopher, a professor of cultural philosophy at the University of Berlin. His name is Byung-Chul Han, But if you will just type in infocracy, you will find the book. It is a very tiny little book that will bring a lot of insight. Now, today I'm not going to emphasize, uh, you know, um, the points that Infocracy, the book, is making. I'm just going to talk to you about the fragmentation that society is witnessing and the way in which we can cope with it and overcome it, which is interconnectedness, and use conversation, discussions, and dialogue. And this multitude of types of intelligences that we are endowed with as human beings to produce that interconnectedness that would avoid and overcome fragmentation. Now, I know that you might be familiar with divide et impera, the old Latin dictum. And you will probably tell me later on when we talk about the topic in which ways you witness fragmentation in your society. Are you pushed away from each other? We were all pushed away from each other during the pandemic, correct? Far away from our friends, maybe from family members, from teachers, educators, from each other socially, from social interactions. And maybe during the pandemic, we were able to sense the way in which we are mutually dependent and the way in which we function socially as human beings. We need to be interconnected and avoid insularity. Insularity is often used as a pejorative term because islands are not interconnected unless we use some means. We can have bridges between islands which are close by, or we can have boat trips or helicopter or, I don't know, plane rides in between islands. But what if we are isolated in islands that are away from what we as individuals want to achieve, from what us as individuals sense that we really are? Are we geographically insulated? And can we say that the actual geopolitical context pushes us in islands of peace, separated by islands of war? Are we pushed away from each other by cultural or social insularity? Are economic and social misbalances in our society divide us and fragment us and push us away from each other? Are we witnessing political insularity, like political views that are further and further apart? And I don't know about politics in your country, but are the doctrines and political agendas overlapping in any way? Do we witness psychological insularity? Yes, we do. I don't know if you know, but in Japan, many young people have not left their homes for years. They work on the computers. They have, food delivered to their houses. They connect with their peers only via the internet. They don't have any type of social interaction that does not have to do with the social media. I don't even know if they really open the door to a delivery, to a courier and interact with them, or just packages are left at the door. This is very dangerous. With my students, every year, we bring about a book that is from a series that's called The World Around Us. And we talk about the challenges, the way in which they see the world, because I am very much interested in the way in which young people see the world. I want to fill the gaps in the perspective that I might have by this fragmentariness that has to do with the social background, experience, walk of life. So I want to have a shared perspective. And in this volume last year, that was published this year, everybody among them was talking about trust. That's why the volume was called Islands of Trust. Okay, they are saying that it is very hard to trust in anybody nowadays. The feeling of fragmentation and insularity was shared with me by students who wrote in this book. And I have to tell you that I was very sad to find out that they felt like islands and they lacked the connectedness and the means to achieve it with the people around because of this lack of trust. We will come back to that, and hopefully you will trust in me and share with me ideas about where and how you place your trust nowadays. If it is actually something that worries you, or maybe you managed in your neck of the woods to be more trustworthy and trustful. Nomophobia is something that happens socially because of the fragmentariness and insularity that we feel. And it is the fear of not having the mobile phone in your visual or tactile sight. So if you don't see your phone, you don't feel it in your pocket or next to you. If you don't see it on a desk or on the coffee table or anywhere near, or you don't sense it, you could panic. Try it. See if that's true. See what anxiety that feeling produces. When I first heard about this modern day addiction, and phobia, I was thinking, and I'm going to be very honest and blunt with you. I was thinking, oh my God, psychologists don't have anything better to do than to invent new diseases, to have people sitting on their couches, have them pay good dollars for a disease that they invent, and blah, blah, blah. What's that stupid idea? Up until one day when I left my apartment, rushing for a very early morning class in a time and day when both my children were traveling abroad for education to different countries. And I was keeping my phone next to me all the time because I was imagining that although thousands of kilometers away, I could help in case an emergency occurred. I was talking to myself and thinking that by keeping my phone next to me, I could prevent any mishap from happening. And as I was, starting my car, I looked around and I did not find in my visual sight or tactile sight my phone. And that's the moment in which anxiety kicked in. I got out of the car, ran up 3 flights of stairs. I started looking for my phone that wasn't in the bathroom, wasn't in my bedroom, was not in the kitchen or on the dining room table, was not by the door or on the radiator. I rushed to the kitchen. I even opened the fridge to see if I did not leave my phone next to the milk I used to put in my coffee. Very weird moments in which anxiety kicked in. And I felt that I was left out of what was going on, talking about the constant need for connectivity, and that I won't be able to go throughout the day without my phone. And I had to make a decision. I said, no, I'm going back to the car and going to the university because I'm not going to let my students wait because I cannot find my phone and I'm going to be stressed all day about not having it. I'm going to manage. But it was, I'm telling you, 10 minutes. They were 10 minutes in which I did not recognize myself. When I hopped in the car, started the car, I realized that the phone was in the side pocket of my bag, which was not in my sight. And all of a sudden, I got so peaceful and happy just because I identified visually the damn phone. That moment I said, all right, so this is really an addiction, and this is really something that psychologists are raising a question mark, and they give us a signal that something weird going on, that our brains, no matter how developed, no matter how well used, with all the intelligences that we are equipped with, we cannot cope with the way in which technology evolves. And I'm going to say this again, no matter how smart we are, we cannot force our physiology to evolve and adapt to a race of technological advances, to strides never yet achieved by humankind. And things that we think that will help us are actually damaging our brain. And an adult brain is something, and a young child's brain or a teenager's brain or a person around 20 are different ways of damage, different levels of damage that technology and social media can produce. And many countries around the world have been preventing kids and young adults to use technology in educational environments because of these effects on the human brain that are not yet known, not because I don't know things, not because you have not heard of those things yet, but neuroscientists cannot yet anticipate the level in which our brains and the young brains can be damaged, stressed, deteriorated by extensive use of technology. Now, what can we do about it? Because we all enjoy our phones, right? Just nod your head or smile if you like your phone and your tablets and your laptops. I cannot live without them. I mean, my entire existence revolves around them, and I would like to use them, but keep my brain intact. Ways in which we can do that? To talk about it, enter a dialogue about it, be aware, and then build ways to improve social resilience, to develop ways in which to adapt to this technology. For instance, I read last week that in Australia, they don't let people under 16 to have access to phones and social media and educational, technological education, IT in education up until the age 16. This is a good sign. When the president of the European Commission in Europe was invested this year, at the inaugural speech, she recognized the damaging effects of technology upon the brains of young people. And she summed up specialists in education and neuroscientists to find ways to change the paradigm in education in such a way that brains of young adults to be protected and not to have damages that will later be impossible to cope with. Okay. So, yes, resilience is a term you might have noticed, or maybe you know. Do you know what resilience is? Shake your head. Yes, yes, okay. It comes from materials and technology, but it is the way in which we can cope and get back to our regular selves after the impact of a stressful moment. Now, my resilience was up when I found my phone. I was back to my own self very quickly. But from that point on, I kept wondering myself, what can I do so I prevent that from happening next time? And I started using all sorts of resources to induce psychological resilience. From that point on, I would never ever sleep with the phone in my bedroom. I will let it charge someplace else because I didn't want to keep it next to me. Then every week I'm checking how much screen time I have just to make sure, that every week I have a little bit less screen time. How about collective action and social support networks? I have built with my students a social support network by agreeing with them in a partnership in education effort that during my class we enter cave time. You want to know what cave time means? We turn our cell phones off and they go into our bags. I set an alarm for break time. This way, for 50 minutes, all of us are away from the influence of technology. Now, do I use a projector? Yes, I do. Do I use videos? Yes, I do. But at least we are away from a phone that produces this type of results. This is a type of social support network I created. And then among our friends, we have a rule. When we are together in a coffee shop or a restaurant, or when we enjoy some nice time together, the rule is who picks up the phone first pays the check, pays the bill. So guess what happens? We share ideas, we talk, we are in a conversation, in a dialogue, we find resources, and at the end, we reconnect with our phones when we reach the car. We will talk about that. Of course, that by dialogue and by conversation and by communication, we can solve many issues. Of course, everything comes down to communication, and I would like to invite you very soon to join me in a conversation because conversations are like verbal dances, just to prove that we are on the same page. This is an expert in communication I appreciate very much. You can sense the link between his name, Alan Barker, and his field of profession because he keeps barking about things about communication. All right. So you will not forget his name. If you like this little sentence I gave you, check him out. He has various ways in which he talks about communication, stages of communication, and all sorts of insights of how to eliminate the potential noise. What type of noise you think can occur in a conversation? Not necessarily the noise I was facing when I interrupted myself a little bit just to ask my mother, who was just wandering around and doing all sorts of things that were producing a noise, so I cannot concentrate while talking to you. As a barrier in communication. So I would like to encourage you to help me form some ideas, to encode and decode them, to help me understand if you received and decoded the messages I have sent, and give me some feedback in the Q&A session I'm preparing. I don't know why this slide is not moving. So as an engineer preparing the little machinery behind the clock, I would like to invite you to share your ideas with me about what you've seen, about what I said, and talk a little bit about everything. So please, I invite you. Who's going to go first? Who's going to be the first brave person to tell me something and to share? So we avoid fragmentation and insularity.
Jay has his hand raised. So Jay, please
go
ahead.
Okay. Please, Jay.
Yeah, hi. Thank you, ma'am, for this really great session. So I had basically, I don't know if I can classify this as a question, but sort of a comment slash question. So feel free to, I'm basically asking your insight on this. So when we talk about insularity, right? I have also seen like arguments in favor of like classifying insularity as a safe space. Especially when it comes to dialogue, we need safe spaces, and insularity usually helps with that, right? And it's an era of constant sort of social media, that we have that abundance of opinions and volume and the sheer volume of feedback that we receive from online social media. So this insularity helps us build those safe spaces. But I've also essentially seen that these insularity, these safe spaces have also usually get, the longer they stay, they turn into echo chambers, right? Where usually the benign idea that that was deliberated upon, it turns into something hateful and toxic. these online echo chambers. So I just wanted your insight on that. In this, how do we navigate that in social media, and basically insularity associated with it. So yeah, and I have another one. So
Can I
another
just
question
can
for
I
you.
just answer this part and then give me the
Yes, ma'am.
second, because there are so many
Yeah,
ideas that come to my mind that I want to make sure that I answer properly
yeah,
your concern, because actually this is not a question per se, right? It is
yes,
just the way in which I see insularity as being, as you said, possibly good, right? When you refer
yeah,
to kind of setting yourself back, stepping back from what's going on so you have time to ponder upon the reality of your thoughts. Have I understood
yeah.
properly what you said?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so what I say, it is in fact something that the opposite. Like we shouldn't be pushed into insularity because we humans are social beings because of
Yeah.
social media. Why not consider social media an island that we go to once in a while for
Yeah.
entertainment and pleasure, for enjoyment, and then coming back to our humanity and socialize and exchange ideas and see the beauty in the human being next to us? Because
Yes, ma'am.
the diversity of the ways in which we get manipulated into thinking that fragmentation is okay can be
Hmm.
spectacular. I mean, I want to crawl into my apartment and be with myself and my thoughts. But meanwhile, what do? I surf the net. I browse to Netflix channels. I go on YouTube. I listen to my music. You see what I'm saying? But I am
Yes, ma'am.
away from people with whom I can
Hmm.
exchange ideas and feelings and emotions that are particular to us as human beings. Nothing to do with the browsing, with the touching, with connecting to devices. Because sooner or later, if we're not aware, we can run into a moment in which the only person that we will agree to interact with, we have will have a double face, one
Hmm.
machine and one human, just to satisfy our concerns. I saw your hand, Randall. I just want to see the second question, and then Randall. Well, or would you like to chip in and say something about the situation I'm discussing with Jay?
Yeah,
Am
yeah.
I audible?
Okay.
Ma'am, am I audible now?
Yes, you're audible now. Please, Randall.
All right, all right. So I thought, yes. So just to continue with that, this conversation with a friend, he said that there is a level at which these applications are now working at, where people even order someone to come to their home to deliver the printout of something that might be required, and it's reached that level. And in that same house, when the party was going on, they had called in someone to do the barbecue. And the two guys who came in were supposed to just do that work. And they had a dog by the name of Jazz. So, Jazz actually, there were 45 people in that party, home house party. Jazz attacked only the guy who came in for doing the barbecue. And then my friend said, that's a very classist dog. So because he attacked only the guys who had come to do the work over there, whereas so I realized then that it's very I mean he said that it is the dog is classist, but I realized that the dog is probably taking on after the owners. The dog realizes who's the in group, the friends who've come for the party, and who is the out group, the people who come and do this work for people, deliver printouts and get work done. So this level of fragmentation was something that was, I mean, very deeply disconcerting. I mean, some of it is certainly related to how time is so important for maybe, and it's almost like most people then who have some level of privilege might be just buying in that time um, to kind of further insulate their in groups. and divide them from the groups. It seemed like that to me.
You turned off your microphone, but I think I got your point, Randall. And it is true. There are many levels of fragmentation. People who are doing this and people who are doing that, people who have a certain way of living and people who don't have that certain way of living. And this is unnatural. I think for the first time in history, professional life overcomes personal life. We don't have personal lives anymore because they are intermixed with various things that we do professionally. We don't use the social media and the internet and the technological devices only for professional or educational purposes. We use them also for entertainment and for pleasure. Have you noticed that maybe when 45 people are at the party, 99% of them are on their phones? When people go to the restaurant, instead of chatting with the people close to them, they are chatting on the phones. Sometimes the music is so loud that they don't talk to each other anymore. Instead of asking, turn the sound down so we can talk, they chat on their phone. This is also fragmentariness and insularity. People, when they come together, they are a huge resource. They are a force. They cannot be manipulated if they put all their qualities together to overcome their flaws. No person is intangible, but a crowd of people with many qualities can overcome all the flaws that can be in the middle because they back up each other. You see? So the trust and the interconnectedness, the unity behind the human beings, the activities that are linked with our right hemisphere, which have to do with the beauty, with the happiness, with art, with generosity, with all the beautiful things we can see in life are of right hemisphere doing, The left hemisphere is the one that makes calculations, that give us rationale, the possibility to follow arguments, to discover ideas, put them in writing, manage the checkbook account. Left hemisphere. But the reading, the arts, the beautiful of music, of human interaction, of friendship, of altruism, of comfort, of love, of everything comes from the right hemisphere. And if we keep connecting to those devices, even a beautiful text we read with the cipher code, that's why our brain is affected and it is damaged by the use of such devices. So instead of spending time here talking with each other, we would go on phones and read about communication and dialogue without actually having a dialogue. See what I'm saying? So yes, you're right, Randall. Even a dog can sense such misbalances. He will attack someone who does something, as opposed to the owner of the dog, to the possessor of the dog, to the person who just shows a way of living that's perceived by the dog as such. So don't disturb my master. He's on his phone. Don't do something, do a barbecue or paint a painting or cook for a crowd or anything that you do that has nothing to do with getting stuck on a screen. So yes, nice addition to what Jay was saying. Jay, you have a second question. Thank you, Randall, for your intervention. Very nice point you made.
Actually, this Randall's story also reminded me of a sort of similar incident recently that happened to me. That when like my best friend and I, we were reflecting on our childhoods and we were contrasting it with how his younger brother, who is like his childhood is going. Because the thing is that when I am only 23, so I was born in 2001, and I have known that my best friend since the first year of my school. So we started school together, isn't? So we never had social media growing up. That early 2000 kids or 2000 mid 2000 we grew up. So and we used to go when we got a little older, 10 or 11, when we got that parents had that trust in us that okay, you can go to each other's houses, And I just think that it used to be so easy for us to make friends also at that age, right? Because we never had phones, so all we had to do is to go and talk to each other. And if even if we are like at another's place, we could engage in any number of activities, and there was never that element of boredom that happened, right? And recently, when his younger brother is basically at that same age, 10 or 11, that we were once, and I went over to his place, and he and his brother just fixed on his phone all the time. I'm there, I'm sitting there, and we are talking. My friend and I are talking, and we're just looking at his brother, and we are making fun of him because for being on his phone all the time. And he tells me one thing, that his brother is having difficulties making friends. Right. And okay, it's not his fault also, because his brother also sort of had that 2 year gap in COVID in schooling, which basically, had a very detrimental effect on kids also. But he was telling me
This
about that.
is
And
why it is so dangerous,
yeah,
Jay. This is why it is so
yeah,
dangerous. You cannot make friends anymore. You see how
yeah,
the brain
exactly.
is changed because
Hmm,
being on the left hemisphere and with your phone, you don't need a human being who can
hmm,
be as entertaining as a channel that's meant
yeah,
for entertainment. I mean, us teachers, no matter how well prepared we are, we cannot jump
hmm,
up and down and bring entertainment to our classroom, no matter how diverse our methods
yeah,
of teaching are. Imagine a 10-year-old kid. He needs to learn still in school, but he does
hmm,
not use his mind. He wants everything to come easy to him and be entertaining.
yeah,
What kid that's 10 years old
hmm,
has the skills and the possibility to be as entertaining as a TikTok show? Or as an
exactly.
Insta post that's made by
Hmm,
professionals, by a movie that you see.
hmm,
But this is something that needs to be stopped at a younger age when parents, instead of playing with the children, spending time with them on human to human interaction, use those neurons, they're called mirror neurons in our frontal lobe, to transfer emotions and knowledge and affection and altruism and friendship and loyalty and trust and all these moral values we value so much nowadays because we are lacking them, are putting a phone in front of the 2-year-old for
hmm,
entertainment purposes so they carry on with their professional lives. We are
yeah,
witnessing a time and age we need to be smart and careful, use our intelligences to cope with the challenges that come from science and technology side, which is meant to do good and progress and bring humankind to another level. But if we lose our humanity while doing this, then we are not evolving. We are just insulating. We're just going on places we don't know.
hmm,
And we can get lost in our devices in these VR worlds that are not ours. You know what? A student of mine asked me last year while we were talking about the metaverse and the potential of these worlds that are perceived through the VR glasses.
hmm, yeah,
Because
yeah,
Japanese, that's how I found out that, you put on VR glasses and you can be in Jamaica, sip margaritas and relax and enjoy, although you are eating pizza and in your own apartment that is, I don't know, 2 by 2. So he asked me, why is the natural reality superior to the VR reality?
hmm,
So this question coming from a 19-year-old person raised, a question mark. Why is the natural reality superior to the virtual reality? Okay,
I
it
can attempt to
depends.
answer that question if you
Yes,
allow
go
me to.
ahead.
Sorry,
I'm
sorry to
curious
interrupt
to
you.
see what you say.
Yeah,
I'm curious to see what you say. Why
sort
is
of
it superior?
in my perspectives, like if I draw from my life and as a sort of young kid right now, so I feel that if you engage with something, in person, being physically present, you sort of fire up, you engage more of your senses, right? Instead of just having that, eyes and ears that are simply that are simply frying your dopamine in your brain. You are engaging in touch, you are engaging in smell, you are engaging in sort of a million different sensations that, being physically present, that that elevates the experience, right? It's one thing to be lost in a virtual world and basically lose track of reality for a bit, because I understand, like, that concept, right? Because people before all this virtual technology stuff, people used to say that, okay, if you read too much, you are losing track of reality. That sort of mentality also used to be there at one point.
You
Maybe not.
practice your imagination,
Yeah.
and you develop ways of thinking that come with the reading. But they have virtual gadgets that can give you senses, a multitude of them, even more than the natural reality can have you trigger in your own brain. But that's not the point, Jay. It is what is natural cannot be taken away from you. The one that's the copy of reality can go away if the power goes off,
Yeah.
depending on what you want, depending on how you see yourself. And this is a psychological development of the human being that's unprecedented, and it cannot be anticipated. But the way in which the brain suffers is now proved scientifically. Okay.
Yeah.
So thank you, Jay, for your wonderful insight. It was great talking to you. Do you have any other questions? I see Solomon has his
Actually,
hand raised.
before I sort of sign
Yes,
off, I just
please.
had one final comment, basically, where, when Randa talks about privilege, and you also talk about how, interaction is important. I also believe that since we have a sort of a very dire lack of infrastructure, in physical spaces where you can, go out and interact with people without the burden of technology, that is a very important aspect that we lack in our societies nowadays. That physical infrastructure that allows people to interact. So that's my final comment. So thank you, ma'am.
Yes, and it matches something that Vikash has been asking in a message, and I just saw it. So, what are the strategies? Go out, hang out, be creative, use your brain. Use human interaction. Put all technology on hold. A couple of hours, 2 hours, half a day, as much as you can. Be aware of it and change the inside. So thank you. And thank you, Vikash, for your comment. Thank you, Jay. Solomon, please, you have the floor.
I think interaction with nature builds up a person.
Oh,
And
yes.
that's why it's much more superior. People who are, if they are a little more disturbed internally, if they begin to go to the garden and work, do cutting, or like doing carpentry, or just walk along the river and sit down there, a lot of clarity that comes into your mind. This sort of interaction with nature is what builds up a person. And suppose if they are indecisive on matters, if you have a problem with a spouse or problem with your friend, go and sit down. So I think even morality-wise, people who interact with nature are much more sympathetic than who are sympathetic and empathetic than actually people who are, remain virtual reality. I think it is in this, I think uh, interaction with nature is superior. I think this
Yes.
insularity, fragmentation, I am a little more concerned with the social insularity. Communities building up of walls today. For example, today, gated communities that are coming up. Gated communities of only one particular community, only one particular caste or ethnicity and things like that. This is much more worrying, actually. This is much more.
Yes, those are islands, strategic islands,
That's really that
strategic islands. And you sensed very well the nature of things.
Yeah.
So virtuality is linked to the left hemisphere. That has nothing to do with generosity, with empathy, with beauty, with finding correlations with nature, with aesthetics, with everything that's beautiful and loving around us. The right hemisphere is the one that interacts with the energy of nature, with the flow of things, with the wisdom of nature, with the beauty of humanity. Because we are part of nature, and we should integrate our beings into the wholeness of the being. We're not separated by anything. We are all part of a whole. that's called humanity. But social concepts that have been in a progress, dividing us throughout centuries, are now reaching a culmination with the virtual era and with the metaverse. So we are different because we have different skin colors, different genders, different ethnicities, different religions, different ways in which we see things. So the plurality and the diversity of human beings is not looked at the moment. We're not seen as part of the big, beautiful, diverse whole because fragmentation and insularity comes to us in different ways, speeches, discourses. Nobody wants to know about values anymore. If you start talking about, about beauty and love and altruism, you are treated with sarcasm and they think you're old fashioned. Because why? The left hemisphere is being used predominantly in all perspectives of life, and the right hemisphere that brings all the beauty together with the rationality is being fragmented. By what? By signal. You see, there was a point in which we didn't have a signal in Europe. WhatsApp fell for a day, everybody panicked. So already mental disorders are being at stake here, and you get panicked and anxious just because you don't have electricity for a couple of hours, or WhatsApp is down, or you don't have access to the internet, or your cable is poor, or now I'm sitting crouched by the door because my router would not emit a signal 1.5 meters away, so I can sit as a regular person at the desk. But I would do anything just to be connected with you guys and share a couple of ideas and make sure that, on your side of the world, values and the beauty of connectedness, dialogue and discussions are on human basis, not on machine basis, that we use. I don't know what, we are on Zoom now. We use it as a tool to bring us closer. Okay? To bring us closer and closer. And we were discussing about maybe seeing you in person one day, and God willing, we will be able to put things together so we see each other, not through this medium. Ranveer, do I see your hand up? Did I pronounce well your name?
Yes, it's right.
Please.
Hi.
Hi.
I just want to bring two different dimension to the whole discussion. One, a small experiment which I'm doing with a group of my students. I teach here in a Central University, Jammu, in Jammu and Kashmir.
Mhm.
So Indians are quite infamous for their very bad traffic habits. And
What
there
habits?
are
I didn't hear you. What
very
habits?
bad driving habits and
Driving.
so
Okay.
much chaos on the roads, basically. So during traffic, uh, when I came to Jammu, earlier my hierarchy of bad traffic, I was putting Varanasi on top of it. But when I came to Jammu, then Jammu is just scoring much higher than that. So I built a hypothesis that if a policeman is standing on a traffic light, then it will become more chaotic. Rather, when the person will not be there who is in charge to manage the traffic will go smooth. So why this is happening? I was so curious. And so once I was just discussing something in the class, and student also became curious. I teach social work here, and we also have a component of direct field engagements. So the discussion moved on, and they were also curious. So we read something about this thing, and so the experiment says that collective wisdom is always superior than a singular person's wisdom. A classical example for the same is uh, if we mention about the episodes, about any episode about who will become the millionaire, public poll or audience polls. So most of the times it has been statistically proven that the audience poll will always be going into the right direction. So my point is, in a traffic signal, when the traffic police personnel will not be there, the collective wisdom of the persons who are driving their vehicles, they are not they are not even halting for a while, but just within fraction of second, making eye to eye contact, just observing how other person will be reacting, they are making changes in their own next action to the person's reaction, and everything is going smooth. And now if we see the significance of this experiment, that how, even without saying a thing, but building a communication, just or a momentarily communication, everything is going so smooth. So imagine the power of dialogue. If you people get opportunity to just to share their ideas, and also how strengthened that will be. This is one segment. In the same relation, I would like to mention another experiment which has been done by one of the architect. He designed a house. It was designed just like a seesaw, a container house placed on a singular pole, which can be rotating on the 360-degree, but it is also just moving like this and this, just like a seesaw. And simultaneously, two people can stay in that house. But the condition is that one person has to adjust their position accordingly wherever the other person in the other half of the container is just staying. So it is just if the person is on the opposite end, they have to just maintain the balance. So that experiment was just people go there, stay for just couple of hours, couple of days, and then this experiment was that how our individual lives are just directly in relation with others' actions, behaviors, and all. This was the second.
Because we are interconnected.
Exactly.
We are interconnected if we have eyes to see the other person's way of being inside, like
Yes.
in the seesaw experiment. So it's based on our senses. Those go to the right hemisphere. And in the frontal lobe, we have some specialized neurons called mirror neurons. That's why people in an intersection, when they connect to each other, not with their phones, not searching for anything, not talking to anybody, they can connect and see what's the road and what's the course of action. We as society, if we have time to feel what's going on, then society will run smoothly. We won't need a leader, true?
Yeah,
We
exactly.
would be able as a community to function in synchronicity spontaneously. But since politics was invented, divide et impera, the old Latin dictum, is at stake because politics makes money, and money produces all sorts of misbalances because they are desired in certain political environments. And that's where the misbalance comes in. The desire for money and power is building fragmentation and insularity. And since communities raise up signals and they try being more aware, then we will be more careful with our environments and invest our trust in the people who are trustworthy. So, social intelligence, interpersonal intelligence, summative intelligence is important not only when you study sociology or languages or frameworks or philosophy or culture or politics or theater or international relations. Is important no matter what you study and no matter where you are. Just ask yourself questions. Is what I do moral? Is what I do loving for the human being? Is what I do preserving humanity? Are we closer to nature, to our human beings? Are we doing something that's harming anybody? Are we harming ourselves? But you need time and space to ponder upon it and converse on the topic with fellow human beings who share the same values. At the conference Mr. Begzad and I met, it was about human rights and peace. And the point we made was that as long as human values are not taught in schools, we're never going to have human rights respected. We're not going to have peace because wars are money making machines. No matter how hard we try, we're not going to be able to find resources to stop them. They do negotiations for nothing. That's a process. As long as we don't build values inside our communities, as long as we are not connected to one another, then hope is limited for human rights and values to be respected. And we're talking about the fact that it takes a village to raise one child. How much effort do we put in our communities to raise the new generations? How much do we invest in education? How much do we do as parents, as neighbors, as friends, as community as large, as educators, to have on the right path? If all of us we do something that we can do and we stick to it with determination, with goodwill and love for humanity, human beings, and human values, then we will succeed. Just if we avoid fragmentariness, insularity, disconnectedness. So let's keep in touch. Let's stay close. Let's do our best. I see that I kind of expanded over the time limit we had today. And if there are no more questions.
Can I add just one more point?
Yes, please.
In
And
the
I'm here.
direction which Jaya and Vikas were just carrying forward. This is about the uses of technology and internet. So we are also just indulged in one of the study. This is a PhD project by one of my scholar, that we are not seeing the uses of internet as a normal technological interference, but we are seeing this with the perspective of addiction. Because
Yes.
in addiction, there are just four primary elements: just preoccupation, dependency, withdrawal, and tolerance. So internet has the uses of internet and the engagement with the same, particularly the young ages and all. This thing has been witnessed by many. And unfortunately, till now, globally, we don't have a singular scale which measure any kind of these internet addictions. The scales which we have, they have been invented, they have been standardized in early 2000s, and that was the era when internet just entered. It was in a very
at the beginning.
it was just the beginning. So we are trying to develop a standardized tool to measure this discordant internet usage and how it is affecting the interpersonal relationship also. I hope that within a year or year and a half, we'll be able to do that.
Yeah, super. I wish you the best of luck. Just keep in mind, nomophobia is no little thing, and it is at the bottom of the things you say. So good talking to you, Ranveer. Good luck in everything you do. I'm sure that your students are very lucky to have you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
There's this little thing that I always think a lot about, and that's the social media algorithms. So if you believe in if you already have a bias and you keep clicking on something which is similar, it will start showing you very similar results. And even if you, by the way, because these companies are sort of interconnected, so if you talk about something on WhatsApp, it will appear in your Facebook and your on your Instagram. So
your search, in your next search.
Yes,
even because they push you to an island. They push you to your island of interest.
Yes.
And they will take you away from a community that shares multiple interests. See?
Correct.
So this is also a way in which we are pushed. Are you looking for shoes? You're going to push towards shoes, right? Are you looking for, social interferences in today's world? Then you're going to be prompted to that, not to anything that has to do with anthropology, with history, with philosophy.
And it is so extreme that I mentioned, I was going to this hospital for dental issues, and I actually mentioned, the doctor, the name of the dentist who's seeing me to somebody, and his profile popped up on my Insta the next time I opened it, and it's so crazy. So
it helps you. It helps you stay close to the people in your island. Even in education, they were vehiculating a trend that was on two dimensions. They were saying about self-study, so pushing students away from schools and school environments, so self-study important, and two, find your tribe. So find your tribe means don't go into multidisciplinary areas, don't go see perspectivism, don't go towards something where you can change your mind. Keep to your island, be fragmented, stay away from others because you can do more by yourself. You see, ego prompted up, insularity, fragmentation. And then whatever goes in between will never be sensed as a whole. And we will be easier manipulated. If you like shoes, I will manipulate you because I have the most beautiful shoes in the world for you. I'll keep you and your mind busy for several hours. Are you interested in vegetables or sightseeing or mountains? So they will push me towards seeing mountain scenes and seasides so I don't go concentrate on my work. So this is the way in which society is evolving. This is why Byung-Chul Han was saying democracy will be replaced by infocracy. Whatever information pops up will direct you to your island and will be so much apart that will be a road of no return for us as human beings. So I can keep you talking for another 2 hours, and I'll keep everyone from whatever. So don't get me started.
So there's this one speaker who is part of our In Dialogue speaker pool, and I remember he sat with me once and he said that for example, we were discussing the Israel-Palestine war, and he said that take or in general any politics, just take follow some people who have the extreme view on one end and follow the other extreme view, and then you will be shown both, and keep clicking on both, and so that you'll be shown some the polar ends of both, and then use your own brain and figure out what sounds more plausible. So I have started doing that. I've started confusing my algorithms right now. I think for a very long time, I think my algorithms do not know if I live in India or in Pakistan. So so it's actually you have
Good
to
for you.
You have to also use you also have to sort of do your own bit so that you are not manipulated.
Definitely, but then you will waste your time avoiding being manipulated than being creative and doing your own research. And if you travel to Palestine, I will assure you that in 2 or 3 days, you will form a definite opinion and you'll see the truth. After being friends for over 8 years with the ambassador of Palestine in Bucharest, I took a group of journalists and we went there. And I was able to see things that I could not believe are real and are happening in the 21st century. But this is another subject. If you want to talk about it, we can do that. Okay. Because happens to be something I know firsthand.
Thank you so much. I just wanted to tell you how grateful I am to have you speak to all our participants. Much. And we, as you said, we hope to meet you in person someday, and you're most welcome to come to India.
Sure. If you would like to schedule a second meeting, I'm more than happy to do so. Okay. It was a great pleasure to be here. Thank you for everybody. Thank you for your time, for your presence, for your comments, for your beautiful big hearts. I see in your smiles and in your eyes, not only in your words when you talk to me. And I wish you the best of luck. And I hope you treasure those values inside your hearts and do your best. In what you do in everyday life. Now, I cannot close just because through my mind, I have one old legend that I would like to share with you. Would you allow 2-3 minutes of a story?
Yes, please.
Well, I'm glad you say so. Let me tell you this little story and you'll understand my point of view that I always do whatever I can. And I will make time when you contact me and you let me know that you want to see me again. I'm here for you. So the story goes like this. Over a beautiful big forest, there was a condor hovering, flying in the sky, a big, beautiful, strong, powerful bird, very strong up high, watching the beautiful forest underneath. And all of a sudden, the sky starts shaking with thunder and lightning, like a huge storm was coming by. And behind him, while he was flying over the forest, you could see thunder and lightning breaking behind him. As he was flying over the forest, he sees one little bird on the top branch of a huge tree with the legs facing upwards. And he approaches the little bird and says, "What's going on, little bird? Are you okay?" And the little bird says to him, "Yes, yes, big eagle, I am okay. But don't you hear the thunder? The sky is breaking. Look at the lightning." And the big bird from the height of the sky says to the little bird, "And so what? Are you scared, little bird?" And the little bird says to him, "No, I'm not scared, you big eagle. But what if the sky breaks down and falls over the people and kills all of them? What do we do then?" And the big bird says to the little one, holding the legs up like that, and he says to the little bird, "Ha ha ha. So you little bird, you think you can keep the sky with your 2 little feet?" And the little bird answers the big bird saying, "No, big eagle, but I do what I can." So now, like the little bird, I do what I can with my little feet, holding up the sky. And I would like you to join me with your 2 little feet, because now we have many little feet holding the sky, not to fall. So thank you. That's a good sign. We can take a picture together like that. Nobody will know. They will think we say victory, but victory is like that. This will be our little legs. We keep up the sky from falling. And I'm sure I have a team of many people now knowing the legend and keeping their feet up like I do. And if I have 300 students a year, times the years that I have to teach from now on, and the 17 years I have behind, I have quite a lot of people with their feet. Thank you, Ejaz, for your little feet. Thank you, everybody. Yasin, I didn't see your legs up, but I'm sure that you have them as well. So thank you, Shiva, also for your support. So thank you, guys. It was a pleasure seeing you today. I wish you the best of luck and hang in there.
Thank you.
Together we can do more.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you for your invitation.